materials, brochures, that are free actually, but you need more support than that. You need an active program, and we feel in our discussions that it's become very clear that we should have, this should come from staff. This should be staff supported. It should be, and not necessarily staff, but employee supported. And like any program, we know from our public health experience, it takes a while before we start seeing the results. Behavior is one of the hardest things to change. If it was not hard to change, I would be skinnier and healthier. But we're very encouraged that I think the commission and staff and employees are all coming together to trigger some good response toward wellness in our staff composition. We've talked about the money savings and we've talked about the reduced absenteeism, but I don't think we talked about the most important thing is that we will be healthier and we will be happier. A healthier person is a happier person. So, Randy, I know we have input from other people, and if you want to, if they would like to.
Yes, Shelley Wingate works for the Department of Public Health, and she's came to see me last week. I think she had maybe contacted Commissioner Hedden about talking to the city, and so she invited her tonight, and I think maybe she may have some things to add to what Wells Fargo presented earlier.
Well, you guys are correct. Department of Public Health as well as the local health department have a lot of programs that are very useful for worksite wellness. They're evidence-based, so they work. Some of them are very low cost, some are even free. And the main thing that I really wanted to point out tonight, because I think Wells Fargo did a really good job of covering most of the points, is right now there are some studies involved with employee engagement. I don't have any data for that right now, but in other countries, they're trying to focus a little more on employee engagement as opposed to the bottom line. I know your main goal is to save money and your return on investment, but as far as presenting it to the employees and getting them engaged, that's the last thing that you need to talk about with them. They need to see you being excited and actively supporting it. And when I say actively supporting it, you need to be involved with the programs, not just telling them about them. And that's been one of the major successes of a lot of the worksite wellness programs, is that leadership has not only supported it, but they've actively participated in it. And I think that's a very important role there. And Franklin County is very lucky in that their health department has an Achieve grant. And I believe you were on their chart team. And so they actually do have some funding. I don't know if there's any that is allotted for something like this, but it could be. And they have a great staff. They know what they're doing. Very educated on all of this. And I also wanted to point out that a lot of the universities now, particularly Western, have worksite wellness programs, educational programs, certification, and you can even minor in worksite wellness at Western now. So some of them may have interns that would be great for an internal staff person to at least start with, and then you could go from there as far as possibly hiring them later on when you develop a budget for it. So that's.
Thank you, Shelley.
Just one last note, and this was touched on, but I do agree that in order for anything like this to work, there had to be incentives for employees. We loosely, in the previous commission meetings, talked about the possibility of offering comp time, a time and a half for participation. Something like that, I think, makes a lot of sense. For somebody who goes through their annual physical, they can get comp time for an hour for that, and they got an incentive to go in. Because being healthy, you would think that would be incentive enough, but let's be honest.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next discussion item has been very much discussion. Jeff, would you mind coming forward, please? It's been very much discussion about the proposal for parallel parking on Sinclair Mall area, and staff put together a diagram, a proposed diagram, and actually met with stakeholders Friday week. Is that right? Before you went on vacation, Friday.
Met with the fire chief, police chief, yes.
And did you meet with Mr. Gray?
Yes.
And downtown Frankfort Incorporated?
Yes.
And Mr. Paul?
Yes.
And was there any other major stakeholders there?
Leave it.
Okay. And you want to pick it up from that point and give a report, or?
I think the fire chief would be probably the person that would read it more. Chief, one of you.
Don't drink me in. You're like it or not.
Of course, one of our biggest concerns is safety, and that was the overriding theme as we reviewed this proposal.
I left each of you a copy of my report. I assume everybody saw that, read it. I tried to be as brief as possible, but yet say what I needed to say. I attached the memo that I sent out last year regarding Commissioner May's questions regarding the sizes of the trucks and the street width that we need to actually set up the outriggers. So that's attached. Bottom line, as I said in that brief report, after looking at all the ups and downs and ins and outs, meeting with stakeholders, as the city manager said, I came up with these two drawings with the assistance of Tom. And the bottom line is what I most prefer is drawing marked A, which provides 6 parking spaces in each of the 2 current cutouts. And whether they're 15 minutes or 2 hour or whatever makes no difference to me. But basically that leaves the street wide open for us to do whatever we need to do regarding fire apparatus. And along the same plan to designate a loading zone for the large trucks. You may have one large tractor trailer in there, you may have 2 smaller trucks like UPS or whatever. But that loading zone would accommodate that facilitate that need. The plan marked B is what I consider would be the maximum working plan from a fire safety standpoint. That includes the 6 parking spaces designated in 2 cutouts and 6 additional ones at a maximum, with a 16-foot designated fire lane between each of those 3 spaces that are designated for parallel parking on the street itself. With that fire lane area, that gives me, I don't have to worry about cars being parked too close together. I don't have to worry about cars parking in those spaces, because if they're designated as fire lanes, we can actually enforce no parking there. If we just designated no parking rather than fire lane, that's always an issue, as you well know. And then additionally, just for your, picture speaks 1,000 words, I attached those photos of the fire we had in '07 showing the congestion in the street that was created by the fire. You can see some of the outriggers, and you can see in the bottom of the picture that they go from sidewalk to sidewalk. One of the photos is kind of an overview, downward looking, that shows all the hose and equipment in the street to just emphasize the point that we need as much street space as possible without it being obstructed by vehicles. And then just coincidentally, the day after we met with DFI and John Gray and Bill Carl, we had the fire that Friday evening over there on St. Clair Mall, and luckily it was a minor fire. But
That lady asked you if you smelled smoke.
she did, and we all said, we don't smell anything but fried chicken. So we didn't smell anything at the time, but obviously it was smoldering, and she smelled it, and we didn't. And I looked around before we left, but I didn't see or smell anything. Anyway, about 5:30, 5:45 that night, we did get the call, and I went over there and snapped those other 3 photos I attached. I think I put a note on the report saying those were added. Again, just to show what even a minor fire does for us or doesn't do for us space-wise. And of course, in those photos, there are no cars parked along the street, no parallel parking, and we still basically took up the whole street without even having to deploy any ladders, any aerial ladders. So that's my report in a nutshell, that I would recommend or support the 6 spaces, 3 each in the 2 cutouts. But if the commission desires to add more than that, then my stand is that safely we can have no more than 6 additional along the street itself, parallel. And Chief Wilboyd's take on this, jump in anytime you do. By designating the 16-foot fire lane between each parking space.
It's enforceable rather than, it's enforceable by the officers and also the fire chief rather than a 2-hour limit or a 30-minute limit that is only going to be enforceable between 8 and 5 p.m. This would be a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week fire lane, just, you know, as it would be in front of Kroger's or any of the other retail establishments, which is a $50 fine under the city ordinance for violation.
And the first $50 fines, you get dished out, but the word's going to get around, you know, they don't park there, as opposed to, what is it, $5 fine in a zone with no parking space.
Over parking.
Such a place park here for $5.
$10 for over parking.
Okay, Mr. Waller, comments?
Those spaces, I guess, the loading zone, particularly the cutouts, would those require, what you see in other places, the heavy yellow stripes?
Talking to Jeff and Tom about that, I think that's your take on it.
We would treat it as any other street.
What now?
The street markings, we would paint it as if it were any other street in Frankfort. Because in order to be enforceable, it needs to be clear to the officer of where the car is parked and enforce the parking regulations that have to be clearly marked on the pavement.
Collectively, we discussed signage as opposed to parking, and it's not going to be effective, it's not going to work. If the street is not physically marked with stripes and boxed parking areas, it's not going to be enforceable, it's not going to be clear to the people that want to park there.
And under the larger scenario, the 12 spaces, under B, do you feel that would have impacted or not impacted your ability to fight either of these fires?
I would definitely impact this from the standpoint of having room on the street for all the apparatus that's necessary for a major fire. On the street and all the side compartments of the trucks being opened and equipment being taken out of them, you know, air packs and tools and whatever. It probably would not impact our ability to set up the outriggers if we did include spaces in fire lane spaces in between. That gives me more than enough room to spot a truck as the drivers are pulling up without saying, oh, do I have exactly enough room to get these 2 outriggers in here? With 16 feet, they can be a couple feet up or a couple feet back and still have plenty of slack time, if that makes sense to me.
What would be the practical effect of that impact in terms of the ability to fight the fire?
You're talking about the former, not the outrigger issue?
Right.
It would probably slow us down some. If we're squeezed in between, I mean, we have space on the non-parking side of the street to do what we need to do, you know, lay hose on the sidewalk and whatever, as it's laid out there in everyone's photo. But on the side where we've got cars, yeah, you might have space this wide between the truck and where the cars park. So yeah, it's going to impact adequate room to get doors and equipment out and slow us down a little bit.
Any other comments? Commissioner May, then Commissioner Henry.
Thanks, Mayor. I guess I want to, when the response on that Friday on the second of all, yes, I mean, we send Station 2, primary station, Station 1, backup station, or well, always goes to everything. I don't know what, I meant to ask this before.
Actually, the railroad tracks are the dividing line, so it's in Station 1's first.
So we do Station 1 and Station 2 is the backup.
But in all practicality, Station 1 and 2 get there about the same time.
We didn't send truck 2?
No.
Because obviously,
No.
it was like, in that response, I just want everybody to understand, that wasn't a full-scale response.
No, that's an initial response.
That was just initial response, a normal response to Station 1 and Station 2.
Right, and just to clarify that, truck 2 is normally a special call truck that would respond automatically on the high rises or anything where the battalion chief can make the call, go and put it on the road. But it's not manned, it's a special call truck.
I just wanted to be sure I knew just in this situation there that if that had gotten into a full-scale working structure fire, we would have had 3 aerials on the scene, more than likely. I don't know, just under our standard operating procedures, we'd have 3 aerials. So truck 2 would get called, so I go back to that. We could have up to 17 response vehicles, just from fire department.
Yeah.
That doesn't count police.
Right.
That doesn't count public works coming over to, if it's winter time, trying to put salt down. Doesn't count the plant board coming to turn off electricity. That doesn't count. So I mean, this goes to a level that I don't know if people understand how many vehicles are going to be there. Just it's accessibility is what my concern was with the last time, and just folks not understanding exactly how fire responses tend to stack up with vehicles all around, and try to make main access lanes for other vehicles to maybe come through, like especially if we're there and you got to get truck 2 in, you've already got area 1 spraying water because it's hooked up to a hydrant at that point, and I'm guessing engine 2 probably be hooked up to a hydrant since it's there. So once those hose lines are down, you're not going to be able to do a whole lot with that at that point, and being able to have a quick access to move vehicles around is what I was trying to tell folks the last time. What my concern was, if you had 15 vehicles, you lose down automatically. You're not getting around. I think Commissioner Hedman was there, so she saw.
In this particular case,
that's where I was coming from. Just having been mayor, knowing the SOPs the way we had to know them. That's what I was trying to. Until people see that, they don't fully understand it. They think it's, well, you send 2 fire trucks. It's like there'd be 4 or more fire trucks on something like that.
Just to go on what you were saying, this being a minor fire, this is what we would equate to a first alarm, even though we don't use that term here. So that got an aerial truck, 1 engine, rescue truck, battalion chief, and 2 ambulances. And as you said, in a real fire, major fire, structural fire, it's going to be double or triple that response. The battalion chief's job, when he arrives, or the first arriving officer, his first duty is size up. Size up is our first duty. What do I have, which goes to what Commissioner, what do I have here as far as what am I faced with, amount of fire, where the fire is, etc. So in that case, he's got to place apparatus immediately, leaving a space for truck 2. You know, if truck 2's called after the fact and they can't get in, then that's a problem. So all that comes into play in initial, immediate, 30-second decisions.
Let's see, it is Commissioner Hayden and then Commissioner Wilder.
Well, thank you, and I was able to make it there Friday night as well. I sent some pictures to the rest of the commissioners. I don't know if everyone received them or not, but they weren't the best pictures. But for me personally, I could support A, I could not support B.
You cannot what?
I could not support B, but I could support A.
Okay. Commissioner Wilder?
So just a question. Under proposal A, would a fully striped loading zone, being painted on the street, is that still be necessary in this scenario?
It would be helpful for the delivery people to know exactly where they're supposed to locate.
They kind of, from what I understand, they kind of do it anyway. I mean, it's just kind of, they roll up there, if there's, you know, the place they pull off, and as long as they're not impeding traffic, we generally don't bother.
I think
that's kind of what I'm getting.
That's, I understand, you know, because, you know, if you make a loading zone, then, you know, be limited to vehicles with, you know, commercial tags or 6,000-pound tags, or what about the owner of a business that, you know, carries stuff from the trunk of their car, you know, their car's not a commercial vehicle, that type of thing. So I think what we tried to do is use a little common sense with that down there, so. I'm not sure that striping a loading zone would have much effect.
Meaning you may be able to accomplish that with signage, if we only go with proposal A, if you go with proposal B, it's going to have to be marked. If you go with proposal B, it's going to have to be marked. That's all it is. And you probably should speak to that more.
Well, it's marked right now, no parking, they have to get ticketed. So you can't have it. They're going to be one way or the other.
Commissioner Stern, are you finished?
Oh, yes, thank you, sir.
Commissioner Stern.
I too believe that there is a great need for additional parking on St. Clair Street. I think in the context of our previous discussions, we've discussed it as a temporary try it out and let's see, you know, how it works type scenario. I've been in and still am in the camp that the more parking that we can provide down there is for the better. I like the idea of the 12 spots, but I am concerned with some of the issues brought up here at this meeting about, you know, the fire response and the impact of that. I'm happy to go with either proposal. I like proposal B better just because it adds more parking, but I understand the issues that are related to that, and we'll support the commission on the rest of the commission on whatever we do. But I do think that, you know, parking is an issue downtown, and I do think it needs to be part of a more comprehensive plan. But I think that, you know, trying something out, anything, will give us some actual real information and real data on if it benefits the situation or if it doesn't. So that's my 2 cents for whatever it's worth in this debate.
Can I make one more point? And I may have mentioned it in the last presentation, but, you know, in addition to the context of more parking on St. Clair Street, St. Clair is also, particularly in the summertime, used as a gathering area. That's an area during concerts, because we close Broadway, we'll end up closing St. Clair, and for the more populated events, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic there. And we close Broadway because of the pedestrian traffic for the concert series. The more popular they are, the more people you have down there. I think, just from my perspective, you know, if we have more 2-hour parking, and it's the commission's goal to make sure that that stays parking, we're going to have to make some sort of accommodation, either quit closing Broadway so often, or, you know, figure out a way to get the signage the right way. There's some consequences, I guess is what I'm saying. But, you know, in addition to the context of the parking, it is kind of a gathering place for people in the summertime.
And for any major event, we also discussed, let's take the Black Cat Chase, for example. You probably have to close, if you go with, well, either proposal really, you probably have to close St. Clair the night before to keep cars off of it, correct?
Or at least put notice. We'd have to give notice.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. That it will be closed next week.
It'd be a learning curve, I guess. I don't know what all the consequences would be, but that is, you know, something that needs to be discussed.
Is handicap parking discussed either? Do any of those have to be?
What would come in?
Handicap, do any of those have to be handicap parking? Is there a state law that says any of those spots need to be handicapped?
I think that if there's handicap parking at the intersections where it's next to an ADA ramp, and you've got an accessible route to the building, then I think you're covered under it.
Commissioner Wilder?
I could still vote for either of these proposals. I guess I do have to say that one of the, I've been comfortable considering option B, which are the 12 spaces, within the context of it being a trial basis kind of thing. This is an awful lot of paint, and that does make it a lot harder to take it back if it is, as a trial basis, it doesn't work out. I think one thing this discussion kind of underscores is the need for a more comprehensive approach to parking downtown, because it is a problem that extends obviously well beyond St. Clair, even though St. Clair is kind of, in many ways, the heart of downtown, and there's a lot of retail space down there, even a lot of it's empty at the moment. Obviously, the parking garage and downtown parking policy in general relates to this discussion. And there's I think there's a lot of folks here today who are interested in parking downtown, whose concern is larger than whether or not we go with 6 or 12 parking spaces on St. Clair. A lot of our discussion regarding the parking garage has taken place in closed session. The commission can go into closed session to discuss 3 things: to discuss personnel, and that's to personnel, to discuss litigation, and to discuss property. And that's done in the interest of protecting our staff and our taxpayers. So setting personnel and litigation aside, the reason we can go into closed session to discuss property, and the reason why it's often advisable, is because if we're talking about a property transaction with another party, it's not in our constituents' best interest for that entire discussion to be public, because if we discuss our thinking on selling or purchasing a particular piece of property, if the other party becomes privy to our thinking, then that has heavy potential to actually affect the price that we get when we sell or purchase anything. Which is why a lot of the parking structure discussion has taken place in closed session over the past 3 years at least. Having said that, and I know I made this case at the last meeting, but I actually feel even more strongly about it now that we've, and I'll respect the commission's wishes and not get into the details of the offer, but now that we've seen another offer on the parking garage, I mean, honestly, guys, there's not really anything we could say publicly to drive that selling price much lower right now. And I think there's so much public interest in this particular decision and in this process. I really think we're at a point where we can just, I don't think it would harm the taxpayer at this point to just put that discussion on the table and actually discuss what we want to do with the parking garage, whether or not we want to sell it, split it, this, that, or the other. Because this issue is going to require a comprehensive discussion that has to include policy, and it has to include the parking garage, and we can't, and it has to include the public. And I think we're really at the point where I don't think it behooves anybody anymore to keep discussing these offers in closed session. I mean, I guess I would like permission from the commission to make the offers that are on the table right now kind of known. I mean, they really can't go any.
If I were the other person, I don't know if I'd be happy with that.
What you would do with what?
If I was the person on the other end, I don't know.
Could we do it without? Could we discuss just the terms without?
If I can add, Commissioner, I think that with the possibility of another offer coming on the table, discussing